Today, we're going to talk about sales and marketing and how they have strategies to bring goods and services to its consumers. And it seems that with big companies, there is more than meets the eye. Hi, I'm Laura Vandenherk, and I work with individuals and businesses from startups to 100 million. And in developed countries, there are saturated markets and pressures to operate sustainably. Today, we're going to go through two scenarios. One with a big retailer and the second one with a big manufacturing company. So an example of a big retailer. There are all different sorts of groups of retailers, but there's one group who charges fees for manufacturing companies of all sizes to get shelf space within their brick and mortar building. So they charge membership fees, they charge promotional fees, storage fees, movement fees, and upwards of 10 or so more fees. And these fees increase the manufacturing business's costs, and in turn, that's pushed onto the consumer in terms of price increases. So the retailer that I want to use for an example is the LCBO. And in Ontario, Canada, the LCBO stands for Liquor Control Board of Ontario. And within that store, it has wine, spirits, and beer. Beer has just been recently added in the last decade or so to the LCBO. They were only wine and spirits when I was growing up. And the store has everything in it. They have international, they have domestic, and they have shelves upon shelves. And some retail stores are really big and offer more. Their sales and marketing to their consumers is few and far between because they are an established retailer. People know that they exist and they will go to them very easily. And most of their sales and marketing go towards those vendors, those manufacturing businesses, to get their shelf space sold. So it's not sustainable. It's not a sustainable way in economics, in business, to be the middleman, because that is what the LCBO is doing, is that they are the middleman between the consumer and the manufacturer. And this just increased costs in the economy. And for the consumer is left holding the bag, as it were. So this is why buying local is such an important thing. When you buy local, say it's a winery and you're buying local, you will go directly to that winery and you will be exposed to what they have to offer. Maybe they have food, tours, tasting, and other things that you can purchase on site, and there's no extra fees. So a more sustainable way to do business would be through less retailers. But here's the thing. They're out there. There's lots of retailers. Consumers like the retailers because there is so much variety. You can go into a retail store and you can find almost anything in that store. But what is the cost to the economy? What is the cost to the environment? In LCBO, they do have tastings, but the retail or the manufacturing business had to pay fees in order for a tasting to happen. When you're doing local, you can have tastings all the time. And recently, more wineries actually sell tastings. They're not free anymore. And that way, their costs are covered for the tastings and they're not losing money. And the person, the consumer, tasting the wines can find out whether or not they like it before they buy it in a bottle. If they buy it and they open it up at home and they don't like it, that is increased waste in the economy. 2, the big manufacturing company. They have chosen to use a sales and marketing strategy that floods the market with their goods. They have gone overseas, found a producer that will produce their goods for the lowest per unit cost. But there's a hitch. When they do this, they have to buy more product, produce more product than their demand is. So what happens? They bring these goods back over into the domestic market of Ontario, and they put it in their brick and mortar store. Remember, they're a big manufacturing company, and they do have a store, and it's pretty big, warehouse kind of like, and they have their own shelves, and they put these goods out. They have more in storage, and they had to have storage room in order to hold all of the goods they produced overseas at that low per unit cost. They put it on their shelves, and at first the good moves, meaning consumers are buying it. But after a while, the movement of that good slows down, and consumers are no longer buying it. What can they do? Well, they can use more sales and marketing strategies of discounts. They can discount it 10%, 20%, maybe they'll discount it 40%. Once they get to 50%, that's deep discounting, and that's a 2-for-1 sale. You pay half the price and you get 2. For half the price for each, and you get 2. So they can do that. They can find a good in their store that is actually selling really well and put it beside the other good that isn't selling so well. And they can pair it together and say, if you buy good A for the full price, you'll get good B for maybe 40% off, maybe 50% off. They can play with the numbers until people start picking up both items. They can put them in mystery boxes together and add more items and try to at least recoup their costs. Once they hit the demand number and their forecasted numbers and they've made that revenue that they needed to make, they may start just selling it at cost. And then that way it won't be hit to their bottom line and their income statement. They won't be incurring a loss. So they could do that as well. Now, in the supply chains, there are distribution channels already set in place for bulk buying of goods, because this happens a lot everywhere, where people will go overseas, get a better per unit cost, bring it over into their domestic region, and they have more than they need. They've come to this halt where they're not selling anymore. All of their sales and marketing strategies have been used, and they don't have another place where they can ship it. There's no other store that they can ship it to. There isn't another vendor that they could try to ship it to. So in the supply chain, there is something called an overstock distribution and liquidation centers, where they open their doors to consumers and they sell to businesses in bulk, and they try to sell these units to consumers. That's the ultimate person they want to get the good in the hand of, is the consumer. So this is done ad nauseum and sold and sold and sold until someone is left holding the bag. Is it the consumer? Is it another business? And what happens to this good? I don't believe flooding the market with a supply that is higher than your demand is a good strategy, because it leads to a higher probability of waste. Either the consumer will bring it home feeling pressured to buy it because it was so cheap, and then they look at it and go, well, it just broke, or I can't use it. Maybe they pass it off to a neighbor, maybe they donate it, maybe they just pitch it in the bin. After a while, it's sat in their closets, in their shops, wherever they accumulate things that they don't use. And same thing with businesses. Where can it go? Goods do not have, not all goods have an end of life schedule. What happens? Is it reusable, recyclable, repurposable? What can you do with it? And since they're made out of multi-material things, it's hard to recycle and it's hard to reuse. And some things are hard to repurpose. But there are businesses out there that are taking on goods like this and repurposing them. So sustainability is a big thing that needs to be infiltrated into sales and marketing. Otherwise, there is going to be an increase of waste in the future. When you are ready to make time spots with me, go to my website at www.nakedacresfarmstead.ca. Go to the booking tab and pick Zoom call or phone call, and you can make free time spots with me from January until June. Cheers, folks.